whatever that is. And yeah, so Giorgio, welcome and good morning to you. It's I guess you're also on the East Coast or the West Coast or somewhere, maybe South America or whatever. I forget where you actually are. You're somewhere. You told me before, but anyway, welcome. And you said I'm glad to be here. I'm excited to see what you'll learn today. Because in my books, the glass is always half full. Yeah, that's great. That's a great attitude. So, I mean, today, one thing I want to discuss is critical thinking with respect to learning. And for those of you who are not familiar with me or my experience, my background is I have a lot of background, but originally an academic background. I did start one business in 2013 that was not a involved in education. There was a lot of training involved, but not direct like academic education. And then the welcome BNV Finance Fixers. Yeah. So, but after that business, my second business was an SAT prep school, which or agency in New York City, which was really successful, and we did a lot with obviously academic test prep, SAT, ACT, all the alphabet soup, as I say, of test preparation as well as college preparation and all that stuff. And so I have a lot of teaching experience myself, and so I'm going to come at this kind of live stream with a focus on how using critical thinking, can really enhance and revolutionize our education system. Um, this is, by the way, how I want to start this is that I am in no way, um, trying to insult educators. Educators are chronically, at least in the U.S., I don't know about how it works in other countries, but chronically, under-resourced and not given a lot of resources to succeed. The lower education, higher education, United States, we're really known for really great education systems, some of the top universities. But then the lower middle school, even high school, our education system tends to be really crappy, for lack of a better word. Really not very good at all. So how can using critical thinking help this? And welcome QUCB and yeah, BNV Finance Fixer. So this is a good jumping off point. How do I define critical thinking? So critical thinking has to do with the methods and sources that we use, analyzing the methods and sources for coming to conclusions about the world. It's kind of like the foundations of philosophy, you could say, in a way. So it's essentially conceptual analysis and challenging and analyzing the foundations of our thinking. Case in point. If let's say you believe somebody says, okay, vaccines cause autism, right? Some people say stupid things like that. Okay, so then how do you and we know it's actually stupid because there's a lot of evidence against it, not just lack of evidence for it, but evidence against it. And so how would you go about thinking about that? But any claim, it's reasonable, right? It could be the case, and in some world, some universe, it could be the case. It's not totally unthinkable. But how do you analyze a claim like that? Well, you get to the bottom of it by uh, basically using certain empirical methods. I'm not going to go into it, all of the methods. Bayesian reasoning, you can use statistical reasoning, you can use, Bayesian reasoning is a form of statistical reasoning. You can use formal logic. So there are a lot of different methods we can use to reason about whether that is probably true or probably false, right? And so it's about using correct methods to analyze our assumptions. And what is the assumption underlying? And that's not just with respect to empirical claims out there. It's with respect to claims that we say about ourselves. I'm not good enough for this career, right? Or everybody's better than me at this or that. everybody thinks I'm stupid or whatever. Um, I am not able to do this. I don't have the ability to do this or that. Right? And these are all claims, and we can use critical thinking to get to the underlying assumption, right? That many times we're not aware of. So critical thinking isn't about being critical. I know that sounds like funny because the word critical is in it, but critical, it doesn't mean like criticizing, right? It means critiquing. It means analyzing, right? The foundations and the assumptions. And so that's a great jumping off point for talking about how this works with respect to education. Now, let me give you a very concrete example of how this works with education. You may not remember all these mathematical rules and stuff like that, but critical thinking can actually help us and help teachers and help people and help you learn better. So, for instance, if you're learning math, and again, apply this to yourself with respect to anything. It doesn't have to be math. It could be anything. It could be networking, whatever you're into that you're currently learning. You can apply the same principle. So let's say you're learning math, okay? And you're learning how to like solve for a constant and a quadratic equation, something like that. Okay, if you don't remember what I mean, it's okay. But okay, so now the math teacher does what? They give you rules. He or she gives you rules. Okay, well, this is how you solve this. You remember that there's a rule. If we can set the discriminant equal to 0 when there's only one solution, something like that, right? That's the rule. Okay, all right. So as a math student, can I okay, I know how to follow the rule. I know what rule to use when I see a certain problem type. But you know what? That knowledge is going to wipe right out of my mind. If I even understand it in the first place, it's going to wipe right out of my mind later down the road when I get the grade, whenever I get whatever grade I'm supposed to get, right? So a better way to teach this is with critical thinking. Okay, and BNV Finance, okay, making sense. Think about how you're thinking, what you're thinking about, in a way, right? Metacognition. And metacognition is a part of it, right? So a better way to teach something like this, and a better way to learn with critical thinking would be, okay, so why does that rule exist? Why is it that one solution, an equation with one solution, will give me a discriminant that is equal to 0. Why is that? Right? If the teacher takes some time, and I know, again, teachers, it's a bigger systemic question, right, of resources for teachers. But if teachers had the resources, if teachers had the ability to basically sit there and say, okay, hey, we're going to take the time to understand why this rule exists. I want to show you. Let's take a look at the quadratic formula right here. Let's take a look at this part right here, which is the discriminant. Let's plug in some values. What do you get? What value do you get when it's one solution? What value do you get when it's two solutions? What values do you get when it's a non-imaginary solution, right? So like you can actually teach these things by looking at the foundations. And you can always, and I say this because one of my favorite books is Range by David Epstein. You guys can, he makes the point that actually, asking the why questions is so important. Asking why questions rather than just how questions. So, good evening, Abad. Good evening. Good morning for me. But asking the why questions. Always ask why. Why is a rule a certain way? If you understand why a process occurs, so for instance, even when, let's say you're studying science, you're studying chemistry. Okay, why does, I get that there are these things like ionic bonds and like covalent bonds, but why? Why is the difference? Well, if you really dig deep, it's a difference in terms of electrical force. It's a difference in terms of like subtle things that we can actually take a look at, right? So if you get deep into these things and you ask the why question, what happens is you actually, it gets into your long-term memory better. So that when you're finished the class, it wasn't just a waste of time. You actually remember it long-term because you remember the underlying logic of why. Why does that happen? And here's the thing. Teaching and learning, let's be real. And like even how let's say I'm teaching right now. Let's say this is a teaching session, so to speak. Learning should not be passive. Learning should not be, here, I'm the teacher. I'm going to give you a concept. You believe me because I'm the teacher, right? It should be instead the how teaching should happen is, hey, here's a concept. Here's a principle, and then the child or the student, not child, could be anybody. You ask, okay, so how do we know that? How do we know that's true? Teacher, how do we know that? Right? Just because you're telling me it's true, how do we know? Now, it sounds crazy to just like question the fundamentals of certain like scientific principles. But again, like you own the information, you understand it, you accept it for a rational reason, beyond just, I listened to somebody. Right? If you fully ask those why questions and you fully investigate. And so it's a really good thing to do. Yeah, good. It's like it's indoctrination versus actual learning and questioning. And so in chess, yes. So Giorgio, you say in chess, understanding the why of an opening was far superior than memorizing the opening in the game. Actually, Giorgio, do you play chess? Because this is interesting. Understanding the why, actually, that might be helpful. If you understand why the player, moved in that way, you can apply this to many, many different processes. It's a good thing that you bring up chess. You can apply this to why did this person act in the way they did, right? Here's a good application of critical thinking to learning. Another point of learning. This is learning in a social context. Somebody cuts you off in traffic. What do you conclude when they cut you off in traffic? What do you conclude? Oh, that person's a jerk. That person's an asshole, right? Why did that person cut me off in traffic? That's called the fundamental attribution error. It's a psychological phenomenon. The fundamental attribution error. So you conclude that, that person's a jerk. But if we take a step back and we say, okay, why? The why questions. Remember the why questions. Why did that person do that? Oh, maybe they're just having a stressful day, or maybe they're in an emergency. Right? Why did that? And I told you guys maybe last time as well. This person a few weeks ago, I was walking my dog, and if you remember the story, I was walking my dog, and she was walking her dogs, 2 dogs in front of me, and there was a pretty good distance between us. But dogs get excited. Dogs see each other and they get excited and they want to play or they want to bark at each other or whatever, and apparently her dogs seeing my dog, that got them excited, and it got their leashes all twisted up as they moved around, and she cursed at me. She cursed at me, and my response could have been, and actually was for like a microsecond, my response was, oh, she's an asshole. This lady's an asshole. And I almost cursed right back, but then I held myself back, and I said, oh, actually, she might just be having a bad day. She might have just lost her job. She might have, so why? Why is she behaving that way? Rather than, oh, she's just behaving that way. Right? So taking a step back, critical thinking can help us learn the motivations for why people do what they do, why you do what you do, right? Yeah. So, I would much rather have a question that I don't know the answer to than to have an answer that I'm not allowed to question. Exactly. And I won't say that in school I won't go so far as to say it's meaningful indoctrination. I don't believe that teachers in general mean to indoctrinate kids. That's not their primary motivation. Listen, again, teachers are resource starved in general. They don't have a lot of resources that they're given, And so, and they don't have a lot of time that they're given. And exactly, assume the positive intent and seek to understand. But they have to teach a curriculum. They're on a schedule. Like, I have to teach this stuff. Kids memorize it. You memorize it. This is okay. Here's a physics class. Memorize it. You see this type of problem. When you see this type of problem, solve it this way. History. Okay, like how history is taught a lot of the times. Okay, this happened, and this happened. And, I will be honest, in college, right, because I was one of my majors, I had two majors in my undergrad, but one of my majors, they're paid. They're not paid very much in many cases, at least in the U.S., I know that. They're not paid very much. And if you hear the hissing in the background, that is my heater. It will go off shortly, but just bear with me. I hate how noisy the heater is, but I don't think I can do anything about it. But so I assume they have positive intent, right? Assume they have positive intent. They're not trying to indoctrinate, but they need to get through a curriculum, and they're resource starved. So, but the better way to teach it is, like, for instance, history is often how it's taught in college. I like how history is taught in college a lot of the time. Why did such and such happen? Why did such an event happen? Why did the French Revolution happen? Why did the American Revolution happen? What led to that outcome, right? And the best classes that I've ever seen, and the best classes that I've conducted as well myself, and that I love to conduct, is where there's a debate. There's a little bit of a debate between students and participants, right? So the debate. This is a good comment, Giorgio, and I'll get back to that comment in a moment. When you have a debate set up between students, kind of a debate or like differing viewpoints, it really leads to a lot more knowledge than you would have had otherwise, right? People consider viewpoints that they wouldn't have otherwise. And again, that's very good for critical thinking, because many times we're not aware of certain assumptions that we have. And the more aware, how do we become aware of our assumptions? Usually not by ourselves. Because let's be honest, we're not very keen to question our own assumptions. We don't like that. As a species, we don't like to question our own assumptions. Okay? We like to just believe what we believe, and that's it. And I'm right. Why? Because it doesn't take much mental effort. Doesn't take much mental effort. I actually had a quote on one of my social medias this morning that I posted. Conspiracy theories are a cheat code for stupid people. All right, and I mean that in a very the kindest way possible. But conspiracy theories are cheat codes. Now, there are conspiracies, but to go to a conspiracy theory as your first explanation for something is a little mentally weak. Let's be honest. It's a little mentally weak. Well, Yuki, welcome. You can actually review this video later for what I talked about in terms of critical thinking in everyday life. But because I did give a lot of examples. But one more example I'll give, and then Giorgio, I'll get to your comment, is, so for instance, if somebody says something, you have a coworker who says something mean to you, or who pisses you off during the day, and maybe they're just doing bad stuff to you, during that day, particular day. You could conclude this person is a bad person, they suck, or you could say, okay, why are they behaving that way? Did they have a bad day? Did they have somebody who, gave them a hard time earlier? Did, something happen to them? Were they in some sort of accident? Did they have a family member that has some illness? There could be a number of reasons that have nothing to do with you, and what we often conclude is, it has to do with me. Right? I'm a bad person. I did something wrong. Something's wrong with me. Really, that's one way, but you can find out. I have the replay. Once this live stream is over, you can go back to the replay. I give lots of examples already of how to use critical thinking in our everyday lives and how to use it to learn better. Yeah, so yeah, it's Yuki, we've been talking about how to ask why questions, right? So always ask why, right? When something happens, ask why. When you even have an internal thought about yourself, right? A judgment, self-judgment. Why? Why am I thinking that way? Why am I feeling this way? Right? When you're learning a new piece of information, don't just let somebody say it to you and tell you, hey, this is the truth. This is the truth. This is, I'm sorry, the heater will go off in a moment. It'll stop in a moment. Sorry for the noise. But I got to figure out that. Maybe I'll go somewhere else for my live streams later. But yeah, always ask why. And then Giorgio, yes, information is valuable. I would say information is always valuable. So sometimes people look at failures, and sometimes people say, and I want to bring this up because it's a good point. You look at, I spent, 10 years in a career that was ultimately was for nothing. It was bad for me, right? I spent 10 years or 5 years, trying to build a business and it didn't work out. Well, ask yourself, is that wasted time? It's really only wasted time if we learn nothing from it. And Giorgio, that's why it's very valuable. Any information that we get, even false information that we get, is actually valuable. Even negative, especially negative feedback, is very valuable. Information about what makes people fail, right? Why people failed is still valuable. So Yuki, you also say, so we must not believe anything. Instead, use question why the question why to uncover the reality behind it. I wouldn't say don't believe anything, because it's impossible not to believe anything. You'll be paralyzed, right? I think another side to this is okay, if you always question everything, then won't you be paralyzed? You can never go through life and take any action, right? Because you're always analyzing, you're always questioning. Well, there is balance to everything. Ultimately, okay, good, the heater's done. Ultimately, here's my answer to this question. It's not that you shouldn't ever just not believe anything. Aristotle talked about long ago, and it's not actually, this concept is not unique to Aristotle. You hear a lot of this stuff with in the East with the yin yang concept, balance. But the idea here is that Aristotle said, live by the golden mean. Live by the golden mean, meaning take a look at the extreme ends of the behavior, right? So for instance, if I want to act courageously, well, there are two extremes to acting courageously, right? There's one extreme, I could act cowardly, right? Always be afraid, always never want to speak up, right? Always be humble, right? On the other end of the extreme is you always take action, right? Always just take action without foresight, right? You always just rush into the situation and just do it, right? That's also a vice, what he said, right? He said that he taught that virtue is really found in the middle. Virtue is found in the middle, and so that's what's called the doctrine of the golden mean. Now, with respect to critical thinking, you have to start with some belief. The idea here is that on some regular basis, it's important to take some time, put aside some time to analyze the beliefs we have. And one of the best ways to do that, quite honestly, is in conversation with other people. Yes, you can do it on your own. You can read, for instance. You can, watch videos, right? You can hang out here, right? But it's also in conversation with other people. So yeah, don't believe anything blindly, but also, yeah. Oh, Nabaraj, welcome. Oh my gosh, from Nepal. I've always wanted to go to Nepal. At some time, I will go to Nepal. I have heard such great things about Nepal, but I've never been there yet, and it's so beautiful. Like from what I've seen, it's such a beautiful country. So I definitely want to visit at some point. Welcome to the live stream. Welcome, welcome, and welcome to. I think you're new here, so welcome to this whole community. Um, so yeah, don't believe anything blindly, but you have to take those times to, you know, to analyze. Now, in life, in real life, we can't just stop and analyze every situation, right? Just okay, you know, throughout most of our lives, we have to make split-second decisions. So that's where our intuition comes in. And at those moments when we can just stop and pause and think and reflect on our beliefs and have conversations about our beliefs, that's when we're actually training our intuition. We're training our intuition to become more accurate, to become a better decision maker, so to speak, when we do have to make those split-second decisions in our everyday lives, right? So thank you so much, Navaraj. Yuki, you said means we should believe in stuff where there's concrete evidence, like breathing. If we stop breathing, in uncovering the truth of breathing instead of breathing, we will die. Yeah, so concrete evidence. So evidence is one thing. Evidence, but also there's another flip side. Not just evidence, there's also logic. So we can logically believe things without empirical evidence. Empirical evidence meaning the outside world, right? I can believe 1 + 1 = 2 without having to look at the outside world. Now there are some debates about this though, right? Of course, my dog is trying to say hello, and my dog is trying to say hello to all of you again. So you guys can say hello to Athena here. Yes, of course. She wants to be on the live stream. She wants to, she wants to bother me while I'm on the live stream. Yes. I see. She's getting back on the bed, and she wants to bother me. For all of you who are wondering, she is a poodle. So she's poodles are wonderful dogs. Very smart. Very smart. Very easy to train, but she trains me as much as I train her. So isn't that right? Right. So the idea. What was I saying? But yeah. So 1 + 1 = 2. Like there have been debates about this. Is math based on is it a human invention? Something that's just that's not really. It's not really objectively true or real, something like that. There's a whole metaphysical debate about that. I'm not going to go down that metaphysical rabbit hole. Maybe we'll do that another time. But yeah, I believe things like mathematics, logic, they're independent. They're not things that are empirically real, but we can use mathematics, we can use logic to basically learn what's a good argument. Right. So, oh yeah, Yuki, what's the most interesting fact about my poodle? Poodle is spelled Poodle, by the way, just in case you want to know. But the most interesting fact about her. What is the most interesting fact about her? I think she can do a lot of tricks. I think she can do a lot of tricks. So if I tell her, and she knows a lot of words. So I have to be very careful. Sometimes I have to spell the words letter by letter, because otherwise she'll know. Like if I say, well, I'm gonna say it right now. If I say food, right, she'll act in a certain way, right? She'll want some or treat, or see, she knows, or some like different words, right? She'll know right away. She's really, really, really smart that way. So. But guys, I really have enjoyed hanging out with you. This is just kind of a short live stream today. Usually we do a little bit longer, but great hanging out with you guys today. If you want to contact me directly, feel free to email me. I'm always down to have a conversation. I love this community. If you guys want to know how to work with me personally, then feel free to check out the links in my About section. And yeah, subscribe to my channel to see more of my content. And welcome to the community. Keep engaging your critical thinking. Most importantly, use your critical thinking not just to make yourself a better person, but to help other people, to help your community, to help build, make the world a better place as well. So have a great day, everyone. I will see you soon. Take care.